Well, Dr. Kroll, one of my favorite topics, and perhaps one of the more controversial topics, is supplemental feeders.
Right.
You know, depending on where you are in the country, it's not even legal in some places.
Right.
I'd like for you to expand a little bit on how to do it and how to do it right.
Yeah, and where it's legal, I don't have any problem with it. There's a place for supplemental feeding in every management program, provided it's legal where you are. And I'm certainly not going to, whether I agree with it or not, I'm not going to fight places that have, you obey the law. But in a lot of places, people can still feed deer, and it has a place if you do it right. Now, it's called, you said it right, you called it supplemental feeding. It is not direct feeding. A lot of people have the misconception that the feeder takes the place of everything, that you don't have to manage the habitat, you just put out feeders.
Don't worry about food plots.
Don't worry about food plots. Well, that's nonsense. You've got to, every successful management program is based on native forage. So the first thing, when we write plans for people and we manage places, the first thing we do is we put in a scheme and a plan strategy to increase native forage. Then, as we've said many times, the native forage is not always sufficient. Okay? Now, deer are going to get by, but we don't want our deer to get by. We want to get the maximum out of our deer. Okay? I've never seen anybody manage for small antlers. Okay? Okay. So in those times of need, that's where food plots first. Okay? Where if you got 35 inches of rainfall a year or more, you can grow food plots. Some areas with less than 35, you can grow cool season plots, but you're going to be limited a lot of times. So when we have food plots though, we have feeders because there's a thing called drought. And sometimes drought happens and we just don't. So what we do is we use feeders as a supplement so that our deer can top off the tank, okay? Now, the cost, let's go cost and the benefit. The cost is, first of all, food plot forage is going to cost you about 3 cents a pound. Pelleted ration, which is what you should be feeding your deer, is going to cost you 25 to 28 cents a pound, okay?
10X.
That can get to be expensive.
Sure can.
On average, our research shows that if you go through 12 months on a place where you're managing it well, deer are going to consume 1.8 pounds of feed per day. That doesn't sound like much, does it?
No.
Okay, so 25, let's just round it off to 2. So 50 cents a day, okay? We've got 80 to 90 deer out here.
Starts to add up pretty quick.
Starts to add up real quick. And then if you force them to live off this feed, you're going to go up to 7, 8 pounds a day.
Really?
So you're spending $400 or $500 per deer when you're just feeding. So this is just a supplement. Now, what should you feed? I told you we designed the first scientifically produced deer feed. We haven't deviated from that formula much at all in almost 50 years. But there's so many products on the market today. You know, everybody's got a magic formula that's going to do everything from growing big bucks to curing prickly heat and acne, you know. But people fall for it. What should you not have in a feed? First of all, the whitetail deer cannot handle more than 16 or 17% protein, okay? Sometimes you can get away with 20%, but mostly 16, 17% protein. So more is not better. If you put out a 22%, 23, 25% protein, all you're gonna do is waste your money and hurt your deer because it'll blow their kidneys out, okay? And in drought years, when they really get on it on a highly digestible feed, you'll also blow out their rumen and then you'll find them dead.
Why is that even available on the market?
Because more is better.
Wow.
And it's a great marketing gimmick. And that's not the only one. Another one is fat content. Whitetail deer do not have a gallbladder. They cannot digest fat. But people are out there selling feeds that are 10, 12, 15, 20% fat. What a deer does when they eat that is their body goes, what do I do with this? And so they either sweat it out, or again, it hurts their kidneys and other organs in their body. It's not a good idea. So that's important. And then the ingredients that go in the feed are important too. There's a lot of people today feeding cottonseed because cottonseed's cheap, or what is cheaper today. But cottonseed has a contaminant in it called gossip oil, which affects sperm production and antler growth. Now, I'd hardly want to do that to deer, but people are feeding it like crazy because they're feeding pure cottonseed.
Yeah, now we've stepped into another one of these controversial topics, and haven't we?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
This is a controversy. Now, there's some people out there that would hear what, or that are going to hear what we're saying here. They're just going to turn red and set their hair on fire and run out of the
Say
room.
some nasty things.
Oh,
in
yeah,
the,
say some nasty things
in the
about
comment
me.
section.
But what I'm saying, I can prove with science. I guarantee you. There's science to back up everything that we're saying here. So, what we like is we like an alfalfa-based feed. We like 16, 17% protein. We like a 2-to-1 calcium phosphorus ratio, and then we put micronutrients. Now that's another one. Micronutrients important, like zinc, but one that's really important is selenium. Selenium is in, if you take plugs out of a growing antler, the selenium content is going to go up as you get out to the growing part of the antler. So when people found that out, little learning is a dangerous thing. What do? They go out and put, it's called a micronutrient for a reason. It's a heavy metal. And we had people that gave deer heavy metal poisoning by putting too much. So stay away from homemade formulas, stay away from shysters, use a good professionally produced feed and you'll be a lot better off. Now that takes care of the feed. Delivery systems. We did a lot of research on delivery systems over the years. First of all, the tube feeders are really the best kind, okay? We did all kinds of research on the diameter of the tube. Okay, this is a 4 to 5 inch diameter tube. Okay, when we came up with the tube design, a lot of people said, "Oh no, you need a fluted one, so the deer can just get in there and just eat more." A deer, when it's feeding, is a prey animal. Its eyes are on the side of its head, so it can watch around. You ask it to stick its head in a funnel. What have you done? They're not going to do it.
No thanks.
We actually did studies where we showed that deer eat 40% less feed on a tube delivery system that's fluted over one like this.
It covers their eyes.
Covers their eyes. So, and here's another, I don't mean to interrupt you, but here's another one. Deer, to look each other in the eye is a threat, okay? So we've got 4 feeders here. How do the deer feed? If they're coming up there, if they look each other in the eye, it's going to be hostile. It's funny to watch what they do. When they come up like this, and then each one turns its head a different way. So they'll want to have his top of his head this way, want to have the top of his head this way, and that way they don't look at each other.
That's manners.
Yeah, it's manners. The last one is the height. This is 42 inches off the ground. And you eliminate hogs, and you eliminate most raccoons.
Yeah.
Most raccoons.
Well, here's another question about the feed itself. I see you've got a mix of corn and the pellets in here. What's that ratio?
That ratio is 20% corn and 80% pellets this time of the year. We added corn. Corn was another controversial one. You find all the controversial ones. But a lot of wildlife biologists say don't feed deer corn, you're going to give them acidosis and that sort of thing. Well, that might be true if they hadn't had anything else and you just gave them corn and they just lived on it. What we find out is a buck this time of the year is finishing out his antlers. He needs 6,500 calories a day. If you and I ate 6,500 calories a day, what would we look at? We would look worse than we look right now.
Yeah.
So we can get so many calories in these pellets. So we add a little corn to increase the energy, because it's all about digestible energy. And lastly, what I'll say is we did all these nutrition studies, and what we found out, the ones that affect deer the most in order of importance, number 1 is digestible energy. And the plants that we're growing have high digestible energy. Number 2 is phosphorus, and number 3 is protein. So digestible energy and phosphorus are your most important ones, and protein comes along behind that.
Yeah, and that's counterintuitive or counter to what you see in the industry. Protein seems to be the focus.
That's all they ask, how much protein? And us being in the plant business, first question people ask, how much protein? How much protein? Well, it's got adequate protein. If you're running a plant that's got 15% protein, that's a really good plant.
So out here in a typical rain year, which is what, in the 50-inch?
48 inches.
48 inches.
Uh-huh.
What is the percentage of nutrition that you get from the food plots and browse versus the supplemental?
We're going to have, this time of the year, we don't want more than 10-15% of their nutrition coming from the food plots or the browse. Now that's in weight, but when we look at it in the actual components, they're getting at least half of what they're needing from our food plots, and then topping it off with this. To show you how important the food plots are, we keep daily records of consumptions out here, a whole bunch of other things. And what we found out that at this point last year, when we had smaller acreage of our summer food plots, we were using 75% more feed than we're using today.
Wow.
So that brought the feed consumption down. 3 cents versus 25 cents. That's a significant
It's compelling
savings.
math, yes.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Well, I hope that clears up some things about feeding.
I think you did. Thank you.